A dusty wind blew through the quiet street as the front doors of the Hillridge Police Department creaked open. A black woman stepped inside, wrapped in a worn coat, a headscarf pulled tightly over her head. She walked slowly, clipboard in hand, her eyes surveying the room. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. At the front desk, Officer Daniels leaned back in his chair, sipping burnt coffee from a cracked mug. He raised an eyebrow. "You lost, ma'am? Welfare office is 2 blocks over." She didn't respond. She just walked a little farther in, calm as still water. Officer Morris snorted. "She's probably here to file some made-up complaint. Maybe try to spring her cousin from holding." Daniels stood up, stretching, and stepped around the desk. He swaggered toward her, puffed up like a rooster. "What's this?" he asked, grabbing the clipboard from her hands without waiting for permission. He read it aloud mockingly. "Confidential court review." "Court? Lady, who do you think you are?" She remained quiet, her eyes steady, almost cold. He tried to walk past her, but Daniels planted himself in her way. "You think you can just stroll in here like you own the damn place?" Then, without warning, he slapped her, loud, harsh, right across the cheek. Gasps rippled through the lobby. Civilians froze. A child started crying. Daniels laughed cruelly. "You'll thank me later, Auntie." The woman straightened slowly, her expression unreadable. She looked him dead in the eyes and said, in the calmest voice anyone had ever heard, "Are you sure about that decision?" The air turned heavy. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. She hadn't yelled, she hadn't lifted a hand. But the storm had just begun. A sharp silence gripped the station. The slap still echoed in the air, like thunder refusing to fade. Officer Daniels stared, uncertain now. The woman didn't back away, didn't flinch. Her cheek reddened, but her gaze never wavered. Her hand moved slowly into the inside of her coat. "Hey, don't move," Daniels barked, reaching for his holster. Morris stood up, tense. But her movements were deliberate, non-threatening. She calmly pulled out a black leather wallet, smooth, worn, official-looking. She flipped it open and held it up. The room leaned in. Across the top, Federal Judiciary. Supreme Court Special Investigations Division. Beneath that, Judge Gloria Miles. Daniels blinked. "Judge, what?" She stepped forward, voice low but cutting. "Gloria Miles. Appointed by Chief Justice Keller to investigate law enforcement corruption across 5 states. This precinct is one of them." The room turned to ice. Daniels looked to Morris. Morris looked to the front desk officer. No one moved. From the hallway, Chief Holloway walked in holding a coffee mug. "What's going on here?" She was loitering, Daniels blurted, voice shaky. "Got smart with me, interfered with." Judge Gloria turned to face him. "This officer assaulted a federal judge during an active investigation." Holloway dropped the mug. Coffee splashed across the floor. "Ma'am, Your Honor, we didn't know, he didn't know." Judge Gloria stepped past Daniels now. No one dared stop her. "I gave him a chance," she said, her voice calm. "I asked him if he was sure." Every officer in the room stood frozen. Outside, a siren blared, an unmarked black SUV pulling up fast. Inside, Judge Gloria turned to the civilians and said gently, "Don't worry, I saw everything." Then, louder for all to hear, "And now, the reckoning begins." Chief Holloway's face turned ashen. The words federal judge hung in the air like a noose tightening around his neck. He stammered, "Wait, Judge Miles? From the Keller Task Force?" Judge Gloria didn't answer him. She simply reached into the back pocket of her clipboard and pulled out a sealed envelope. She handed it to the deputy standing nearest. "Warrants," she said plainly, "signed by federal court. Immediate suspension and investigation into key personnel." The deputy opened it, eyes widening as he read aloud the names: Officer Daniels, Officer Morris, Chief Holloway. Holloway backed up a step. "Me? You can't be serious, I didn't even touch you." "But you allowed this culture to exist," Gloria said, her voice calm but slicing. "The racism, the cover-ups, the doctored reports. You didn't need to slap me, you've been slapping this community for years." Daniels was already being cuffed by 2 plainclothes agents who'd entered quietly behind the SUV. His eyes darted in panic. "I didn't know who she was." "That's the problem," Gloria said. "You only treat people with respect when you think they're powerful." Outside, more black SUVs lined up. Cameras from local news vans pointed toward the door. Inside, Holloway's voice cracked. "This is my station." "No," Gloria replied sharply. "This station belongs to the people you swore to protect." Officers around the lobby stood motionless. Some looked ashamed. Others quietly began removing name tags, setting badges on desks. A dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio, unaware of the unfolding chaos. "Code green. All units check in. But inside the building the only signal was silence, absolute tense silence. Judge Gloria turned toward the entrance, heels clicking softly against tile. Justice didn't shout. It walked like her, measured, precise, and unstoppable. The sound of handcuffs clicking echoed down the hallway like gunshots. Daniels struggled, his voice desperate now. "This is a mistake. I didn't know. She never said anything." One of the federal agents, Agent Brooks, tall and silent, looked him square in the eye. "You didn't need to know. You acted with prejudice, force, and zero cause." Morris tried to sneak toward the exit, but Agent Vega stepped in his path. "Not so fast. You're under arrest for evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, and aiding in civil rights violations." "Civil rights violations?" Morris barked. "This is insane." Judge Gloria spoke from the center of the room. "What's insane is how long you got away with it. Disabling body cameras, deleting reports, threatening victims, arresting protesters under false charges. It's all here." She tapped her clipboard. Chief Holloway was next. He didn't resist as his hands were cuffed. His face had gone pale, beads of sweat rolling down his temple. More agents flooded in, 5, 6, then 8, each with assignments, photos, evidence folders. The operation was bigger than anyone had imagined. One officer tried to object. "This is excessive. Not everyone here is dirty." Gloria turned to him. "Then you should have spoken up. Silence isn't innocence." The media began pushing into the lobby. Microphones, flashing bulbs, and shouted questions followed. "Judge Miles, were you really slapped on duty? Is this station the first of many?" She answered only one. "How do you feel right now?" She paused, relieved. "Not for me, for every mother who begged this station to listen, for every kid framed, every complaint shredded, every truth buried." Outside a chant began to grow. "Justice for all, justice for all." Inside, Daniels finally stopped struggling, because deep down he knew. It was over. As the dust began to settle, a quiet figure stepped from the back hallway, a janitor, mop in hand, eyes lowered. He looked unassuming, invisible even. But when he made eye contact with Judge Gloria, he gave the smallest nod. "Agent Cole," she acknowledged, her voice low. The janitor straightened his back, peeled off the outer layer of his uniform to reveal a tactical vest beneath. Another undercover agent, another layer to her operation. Throughout the station, more civilians started revealing their roles. 2 women who'd sat for weeks in the waiting area pretending to file complaints, an elderly man who posed as a confused veteran, and a clerk who had quietly copied every doctored report. They weren't there by chance. They were all part of Gloria's team. The revelation stunned everyone. "You've been watching us this whole time?" a stunned rookie officer asked. "Yes," Gloria replied. "You don't uncover rot from the outside. You step into the walls, breathe the air, and feel where the cracks are. Then you let the truth speak for itself." Agent Cole approached with a locked case. He opened it, revealing hard drives, paper files, flash drives, months of surveillance footage, wiretap transcripts, whistleblower reports. The evidence was airtight. Gloria continued. "For 3 months we documented every interaction, every abuse, every ignored cry for help. One by one, the officers who had enabled injustice were read their charges, their rights, their shame. And one by one, those who had suffered, wrongfully arrested, silenced, ignored, began gathering outside the station gates, watching as the tide finally turned." The news camera panned over the evidence table, the shattered faces of fallen officers, and the unshakable presence of Judge Gloria. She hadn't come to make noise. She came to make history. Outside the police station, the crowd had doubled in size. Dozens stood behind yellow barriers, many holding phones, some holding signs. Most wore expressions of disbelief, then dawning realization. The system that had failed them was finally cracking. A teenage boy with tear-filled eyes whispered to his mother, "That's her, the judge from the hearing last year." His mother nodded, voice trembling. She remembered. The cameras shifted to the courthouse steps. Judge Gloria now stood before them, flanked by federal agents, evidence boxes, and captured officers. She didn't pose, she didn't grandstand, she simply stood, unmoving, unwavering. Reporters shouted questions. "Judge Miles, how deep does the corruption go? Is this part of a federal sweep? Did you know Officer Daniels had prior complaints?" Gloria raised a hand gently. The noise quieted. "I won't speak to speculation," she said clearly, "but I will speak to truth. This city trusted those who wore badges. What they received instead was fear, dismissal, and injustice. That ends today." Behind her, more arrested officers were led into SUVs, some shouting innocence, others silent in humiliation. A man near the back of the crowd, his arm in a sling, whispered, "That's the one who broke my wrist during a traffic stop." A woman beside him replied, "They said my son resisted arrest. They never showed the footage." Judge Gloria glanced back at them briefly. "You weren't invisible," she said, addressing the public now. "We saw you. We heard you. And finally we believed you." Applause erupted. A chant followed, low at first then swelling, "No justice, no peace." But Gloria didn't smile. She turned to Agent Cole. "Let's finish this." He nodded. 2 more stations, 2 more chiefs. The operation wasn't over, it had just begun. Inside a secure mobile command van parked outside the station, Agent Vega inserted a flash drive into the console. Screens flickered to life. Judge Gloria, flanked by federal techs, watched as buried truths emerged in vivid color. The footage had been buried deep, hidden by officers who thought they'd erased all traces. Clip 1. Officer Daniels shoving a teenager face first into a patrol car, while yelling racial slurs. Clip 2. Chief Holloway laughing with Morris as they reviewed a tampered report, swapping a dashcam file for a blank segment. Clip 3. A young mother weeping in a cell, arrested for disorderly conduct after begging for help when her son went missing. Each video played like a wound reopened. "Overlay the complaint logs," Gloria instructed. "Match the faces, match the dates." A tech complied. Dozens of names appeared, every victim who had filed reports, all of which were lost, dismissed or marked inconclusive. "You see?" she whispered. "This was never about one slap. That was just the surface." Agent Cole leaned forward. "We're compiling a master file. Once uploaded it becomes public record." Gloria nodded. "Good. Let the people see what was done in their name." Back inside the station, officers watched from their holding cells. Daniels buried his face in his hand. Morris stared blankly, lips trembling. This is career-ending," Holloway muttered. "It's justice," Agent Vega said flatly. Outside, the screens had been linked to a nearby news van. The footage began broadcasting live across the city. Citizens gathered in silence as the truth unfolded. Gasps, cries, shouts of anger and sorrow. A woman in the crowd collapsed in tears. Her brother's face had just appeared, beaten and bruised, on one of the screens. Judge Gloria stood still, letting the truth speak. Because it finally could. Back at the federal field office, Judge Gloria sat alone in a conference room, her robe folded neatly beside her. She stared at the evidence wall. Photos, timelines, names, every victim, every crooked badge, every lie. She didn't look victorious. She looked tired. Agent Cole entered quietly. "It's done," he said. "The files are in DOJ hands. Media's spinning it. Some calling you a hero. Others say you ambushed them." Gloria didn't flinch. "I didn't ambush them. I gave them a question." He nodded. "And 7 words that shook the entire department." She almost smiled. Almost. Flashbacks rolled through her mind. When she first got the anonymous letters, when the first mother showed up outside her courtroom holding photos of her son, when she noticed the same names, same excuses, same cover-up. "Why didn't you go public sooner?" Cole asked gently. "Because the system protects itself," she answered. "I had to be sure. I had to see it, feel it, walk inside it. I had to give them every opportunity to choose better." He sat across from her. "But they didn't." "No," she said. "They never even hesitated." In another part of the building, a press secretary prepared a statement. The mayor's office demanded an emergency briefing, and across social media, clips of the slap, the ID reveal, and the station arrests went viral, millions of views within hours. But Gloria wasn't thinking about virality. She thought of the girl whose complaint was ignored, the man who died in custody, the grandmother laughed out of the precinct. "I waited," she said quietly. "I watched. I let them hang themselves." Cole looked at her, admiring and somber. "And when you spoke?" She stood, putting on her robe again. "I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard." The courtroom was packed, standing room only. Rows of media, citizens, civil rights advocates, and off-duty officers filled every seat. At the center, in her black robe and unwavering gaze, sat Judge Gloria Miles. The defendants were brought in one by one: Daniels, Morris, Holloway, and 5 more implicated through the investigation. Shackled, pale, silent, Prosecutor Leland stood tall. "Your Honor, the state requests full denial of bail. These individuals aren't just flight risks, they're risks to justice itself." Judge Gloria nodded. "Proceed." Daniel's lawyer, sweat on his brow, rose. "Your Honor, my client was unaware of your identity. This was a misunderstanding, not a crime." Gloria's voice cut through. "Was he unaware when he slapped me? Or when he deleted body cam footage? When he laughed while framing a teenager? Or when he threatened victims?" No one dared answer. Holloway's attorney tried next. "Your Honor, the chief had no direct knowledge of many of these infractions. Ignorance is not innocence," Gloria interrupted. "You wore the stars of leadership. The rot happened on your watch." The courtroom stirred. Reporters furiously typed. Victims in the gallery held hands. Then, Gloria rose from the bench. This is not about one slap. This is about a culture where badges became shields, and truth became disposable. I didn't go undercover to trap anyone. I went to see if justice had a place here. It did. Gasps, murmurs, tears. I was mocked, dismissed, struck, and still I gave a choice. Are you sure that's your final decision? She looked at Daniels. You chose wrong. The gavel slammed. Bail denied. Trial expedited. Full charges to proceed federally. The room exploded, not in chaos but in awe. Justice wasn't just being served, it was being written into history, one sentence at a time. A week later, the nation was still buzzing. News outlets ran endless loops of the moment Judge Gloria revealed her badge. Talk shows debated the ethics of her undercover operation. Social media dubbed her the Quiet Storm. Hashtags like #Final Decision and #Justice Walked In trended global. But Judge Gloria ignored the spotlight. She returned to work. No interviews, no grand speeches, just justice. In a downtown high school auditorium, a panel on civil rights reform was underway. Unexpectedly, Gloria entered the back unnoticed. She sat beside a young boy and listened. The boy leaned over, whispering, "You're her, aren't you? The judge?" She smiled softly. "What makes you think that?" He grinned. "You don't look scared of anything." She looked at the stage. "Not fear," she said, "purpose." Meanwhile, back at the courthouse, photos of her undercover team were placed on the Wall of Honor. Their quiet sacrifices now known, their work praised nationwide. Federal reforms were being drafted. Body cam protocols, whistleblower protections, and a new civilian oversight. One of the women whose complaint was long ignored, Miss Evers, stood at a podium during a city memorial and read a letter. Judge Gloria didn't just listen, she believed. And in doing so she gave power to every unheard voice. Across the city, murals of Gloria appeared on walls, robe blowing in the wind, clipboard in hand. And beneath them, her now famous words. "Are you sure that's your final decision?" Gloria, in chambers, reviewed another case file. A knock came at the door. "Another department, Your Honor," said Agent Cole. "More complaints. More She closed the file and stood. "No badge is above justice," she said. And with that, the woman they tried to slap into silence rose again, not to speak louder, but to listen harder.